Are you ready? Are you prepared? And I'm screen sharing something. I have notes open. You're not going to see the notes. Eat my dick. All right, Holy. So I already spammed you a little bit with some of the shenanigans in in fucking whatever the war in heaven is. Do you?
A little bit.
Okay, cool. Welcome to Unit 1, Lesson 1 of Warhammer 101. Also, if you fail the test, like I told you, we're gonna put your brain in a toaster. Um, Hope you're okay with that.
That's tough.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
if you fail, there's no test today, but there will be a test eventually. You can see my screen share, right? You see my screen share up there? Hello?
I cannot.
You can't? It says I'm sharing the screen.
You know what? Yeah.
Am I streaming this too? That might be a mistake. Don't stream. Share your screen. Share the Google page.
Wait, no, it should be right here. More options. Here.
You should be able, yeah, it says I'm sharing the screen. Can you see it yet?
I can see it now. I switched to my laptop.
Okay. Okay.
Now let me just put my ear. Let me put my headphones in. There's not a lot of interference.
I have put it in full screen mode under ill-advised. Is there a way for me to make it not full screen but still navigate? And we'll figure it out. Figure it out. This is really scuffed. This is gonna take a lot of editing. I can already feel it. So
More than likely. Okay, come on, come
I'm
on.
just gonna share images. If I knew how to do that. See, this is what happens when you don't prepare properly, and it's probably just gonna be like an audio clip with a bunch of screens in the background now, where I'm just gonna take the audio from this and put a bunch of random stuff. I'm gonna adjust your fucking audio balancing. Do 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 do.
That's not better? Or no?
Talk one more time for me.
Hello?
Oh yeah,
Testing.
that's 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 better. You're fucking. Apparently you're really loud. Who could have guessed? Whatever. Things are gonna be scuffed. You can see the screen. It's the war in heaven. That's what we're talking about today. Um.
A war
The,
in heaven.
all right. So I actually got the initial number of years wrong about the war in heaven. It's actually even longer. I know that you
This
can.
is the first war.
This is the first war in heaven, yes. And if you can't tell from the shenanigans happening in this image alone, uh, war in heaven is not necessarily a great situation to be in. Uh,
It doesn't sound like it.
which yeah, you can still see that. Good, good. You can still see that screen. So give me a general idea on what you think the war in heaven is really about. Like, put it from the name, the title card, if you would, which is an excellent title card. I do feel. What do you think war in heaven is really all about?
Primordial beings
Primor,
running a fade
prim,
that dictates
primordial
the flow of
beings.
chaos.
Flow of chaos is the chaos doesn't exist yet, but sure. Oh, my notes are on screen. Damn it. It's supposed to only display Google. Why are you doing that? Is it showing you Google, or is it showing you? Stop stop pausing the stream when I'm not on the correct screen, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's showing me your Chrome tabs.
Okay, that's fine. That I'm not bothered by that. But you're not seeing. Like, one second, I'm gonna click over. Can you see what I'm like my notes right now?
No.
Okay, good. Can you still see the picture?
Yep.
Awesome. Epic. Okay. So
We're in business.
we're kicking it off. The War in Heaven is also known by the Necrons, which you don't know what those are yet, but we're gonna get into that. Happened apparently 60 million Terran years before current 40K. I'm not gonna say Terran years every time. Just assume whenever I say years, I mean one Earth year. Um,
One Earth year. Okay.
we've got our main players, which you can see in this image here. They're going to be the Necrons, which are those green and black boys. The Catan, which is that big scythe wielding thing in the background on the
The
left.
red guy.
No, on the left in the background. See that big scythe wielder back there? Who's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a Catan.
That's a Catan.
And then the people they're fighting that image is an Eldar, which we'll also get into them a little bit today. And we're not going to cover too much on important characters because that would take forever, or at least even longer than what this is going to take. So we're just going to go from here. And then we're also going to have the old ones, and the old ones are pretty big. The reason why all of this is important is because this is actually where the warp gets made. This
And remind me what the warp is again.
So the warp is a well. So there's this thing in 40K called the Immaterium, and to give you kind of like a general, like a really basic uh, idea of how that works, essentially, is that the warp is like the non-physical realm was called the realm of souls before that, which is like, it was a generally peaceful thing because life in the galaxy was pretty. It was people were just vibing, like nothing's really going on. Things are kind of happening. Stuff happened. A lot of stuff happened. Specifically, the creation of the warp is a big one, where you get to the realm of chaos. Which I mean, chaos did exist in the realm of souls. It was just very, very small. Because naturally, no matter how good life is in the galaxy, somebody always wants something. As long as there's two living things, there's always going to be something killing something. There's always going to be disease, whatnot, that sort of thing. Uh, in addition to that, there's actually kind of like a big deal that happens in this that I didn't really remember called the Enslaver Plague, which we'll get into that later. That sounds horrifying. Uh,
The Enslaver Plague.
yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Well, I mean, you're sentient, so you should worry about that, but don't worry about that. Um, there's the Eldari slash Eldar rise to supremacy, and then I just have in my notes something called the Big Sleep, which we'll get into that.
A big sleep.
Right. So we're gonna cover kind of the some general stuff about each faction, quote unquote. So the Catan is actually a word from the Necron language for star gods, which I'm gonna see if I can just get a picture of a Catan on screen for you. That we have a yeah, it's probably a pretty fucking good idea of what a Catan is right there. The right here, there we go. So I'm gonna
Do all of them always have that like halo wing behind
No,
them?
not really. It's just kind of a general idea. No one really knows what a Catan look like anymore. Uh, they actually kind of remind me of Archons from XCOM 2, or I guess XCOM 2 Archons remind me of this sort of image of a Catan. Uh, but no, they don't all have that. They all have their own kind of personal look. Uh, they have been
So
around.
they're all individualized.
Yeah, they all have like own separate personalities and everything. Like they're sentient creatures that are really old, and by really old I mean they have literally existed since existence itself. Like when the Big Bang happened, they happened. But before they got physical bodies, they were just like giant clouds of sentient gas, and they would just eat stars. Like they would just eat like the radiation that came off stars, which would cause these stars to like have shorter lifespans by like millions of years. Keep that in mind because Catan are very hungry boys. Uh,
What? Okay.
so now we're gonna move on to the next major player, arguably the biggest major player in all of 40K, other than the Emperor himself, are the old ones, which are that is pictures of Cthulhu. That was a lot of pictures of Cthulhu. My bad. Um, that's Tyranids down there. Ignore that. So this is just a lot of opening images and new tabs. I'm definitely going to change this audio recording or what's in it. But as you can see, the old ones from this picture, which nobody's actually seen an old one to confirm this, other than the Necrons, and the Necrons do some not great stuff to them. Uh, as you can see though, they're very reptilian frog people. And by Jove, are they really cool? Because they're like super psychers. They have really adept like psychic prowess. Their technology's advanced to the point where it's like magic. Like to us, we could never really comprehend it. No way, no how. If they were to tell us like the science behind it, probably make our brain explode. In addition to that, I mean, if watching them would probably be like, "Yo, you just casted a spell," and it's like, "No, it was a device." It's like, "How did you do that?" And you just we can't. They're just it's that sci-fi shenanigans where it's like, oh, technology so advanced that it's basically magic, which it is basically magic. Oh, also they could literally manipulate alternate dimensions, which don't know how important that is or how they're able to do that or how that affects 40K, but they can do that, and that is a thing. Um, they built a lot of warp technology, including warp gates, which that is extremely important for later, the warp gate situation. And then they also they have they seeded intelligent life across the galaxy, so they kind of created a lot of the species in 40K to the point where even like the Adeptus Mechanicus can kind of feel like the echo of the old ones in them. But if if they find out that you think that in the Imperium of Man, you get fucking executed because daring, daring to think that you are anything other than made in the image of the Emperor is extreme heresy, and heresy is
Then you'll
usually met
die.
with met with death or being put in a penal engine or being sent to get experimented on by the Adeptus Mechanicus or any number of horrible fates. Really, there are fates worse than death, especially in the Imperium of Man. And then, but for instance, some of the species they did create were like the Eldar, the Quarks, the Slann, and the Jokairo. Uh, you don't know what a Quark is. The Quarks are what orcs used to be. Uh, you don't know what any of those are actually, which we will probably do an episode on like the species of 40K later, where we'll cover like the big aliens, go over the factions, maybe their anatomy a little bit. But beyond that, no. Anyway, the next big team, the next big team are something called the Necron Tier, which you might be going, what the hell? The Necron Tier, surprise, surprise, become the Necrons. Who could have guessed? Um, they kind of look like this. Actually, that's pretty accurate. I'd say that's actually the most accurate thing I've ever seen. Look at that. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Great, right? Great by
Necron tier.
yeah. Um. So downside about being a Necron tier is that you have Giga Cancer. Mostly because they live in this area of the galaxy, which I'm gonna pull up a map of 40K of the galaxy so I can give you a map of 40K galaxy. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna get this in an image in a window. Open image in this tab here. And holy crap, that is small. Uh, that is a really not great map up close. I also can't escape full screen again. I've done horrible things. But there we go. Uh, let me see if I can find a better map. That's not a great map. How big is this map? Is that map gonna be better? Why are all the maps so small, my guy? Jeez. Okay, well, screw it. We're gonna ignore that. They live in this section of the galaxy called the Halo Stars, and the downside about living, yeah, the Halo Stars. The reason why they're called that is because they are literally just kind of on the edge of the galaxy. I believe, I believe they're on the edge of the galaxy. I used to have a map of this in my room. I should remember this better. Uh, I should definitely be able to remember this better. Um, yeah, shenanigans with messing with the websites. This is what happens. Yep. See right there, Halo stars. Do you see where that is up in the top left corner, almost like at God damn it, at the edge of like the
It's a huge map.
at like the
Is that a
edge.
black hole?
No, that's pockets of where the warp is bleeding into real space. Uh, Ignore that. That's
Oh
not
my
important
gosh.
right now. That
Okay.
doesn't exist at this point in time. But you see where those Halo stars are, where they're sitting almost like they're literally on the edge of the galactic. Go away, Olay commercial. Um, Edge of the galactic void, like right here. Uh, their star that they lived on, like their planet, was super irradiated, so it would give them really bad cancer, and they lived very short lives. Um, Essentially, they built a culture around death because, well, if you don't live very long, you start worshiping death as a result because that's what your culture is kind of based around. You like the
Wait,
how what? Go ahead. You have a question?
you. Yeah, it's not even a question. You like cut out. So I don't. Literally, like the last like 20 seconds. I don't know if you were talking
Oh,
after you said Halo stars.
oh, God bless. Okay, so the Haler stars, the Halo stars. Why? Why am I getting? I hate this. I hate that I have to use this website right now. I'm gonna definitely redo this with fucking images in the background instead. Um, but the Halo stars all the way out there are essentially these like they exist all the way out on the edge of the galaxy. It's like a system. It's not like oh they live literally like they look out and it's the galactic void. I'm sure there probably were a couple planets like that where they looked out and they could see the infinite expanse of darkness. Uh, but
They even be able to comprehend that
Probably because it's just a black screen. I mean, it's not like but
in the
they
sky?
no, not like in the sky. They just wouldn't have stars in the sky. That's but like if you look through a telescope, it would just be black. Like I mean, like they're spacefaring like species. They don't assume that this is like primitive people. They're very like yeah, it's 40K. Fucking 60 million years ago, aliens were super advanced. People were super. Things are weird. All right, just the timeline's weird. Um, Also, they were alive way longer than us anyway. So, by this point, by this point where we are covering the Necron tier, they're spacefaring. They know science. They understand what the galactic void is. These aren't like. I'm sure at some point they were primitive and they were like, oh, the great darkness in the sky, and they freaked out. But then they realized that was just how the sky is, and probably weren't bothered by it. Uh, but anyway, naturally, when you live near a super irradiated sun that gives you mega cancer, you go, man, I should probably live somewhere that's not here. So they get on these really big ships made of necrodermis, which is a living metal, and they were powered by antimatter, and they would just sleep in like these stasis tombs as they would like
Whoa.
slowly float across the galaxy to new planets. And they're ruled by these things called dynasties, which I mean they're like royal houses. Um, you'll notice very quickly that the Necrons are heavily Egyptian based on their naming scheme, and especially because the leaders of these dynasties are called pharaohs. 40K is not very good at subtlety. But anyway, very slowly they begin to like spread their influence, and these dynasties are all ruled by this thing called a triarchy, which are composed of three pharaohs, and the biggest guy, well, not really the biggest guy, but there's always a silent king. And the reason why the silent king is called that is because he never addresses the people directly. He is only ever addresses the people between the other two pharaohs of the triarchy. So he's never seen he only really gives commands like that, and he doesn't talk to anyone other than those triarchs in terms of when it comes to ruling over the people. The final Silent King belonged to this thing called the Zerakin dynasty. Uh, can you guess what his name was?
This is Egyptian based, right?
Uh, don't think too hard. It's a very obvious name. You have 10 seconds. 10, 9,
Osiris.
8, 7, 6.
Osiris?
Not even close. It's Zarek.
Was that two on the nose?
No, just it's the Zarakin dynasty, and the name of the final Silent King was Zarek.
Oh my god.
Also, Zarek is spelled Zarekh. So there's gonna be a lot of KH names in here. So if I start butchering things, it's not my fault. They named everything as if someone like had dyslexia. Um,
So it's Zarek, but the S is silent.
yeah, kinda. I don't know, like Zaz and fucking Batman, where the Z and the S
Yeah.
kind of form the same syllable. Anyway, at some point, naturally, over the expansion of the Necron tier, they run into the old ones who have also built their own empire way faster, way bigger, and way better. And the Necron tier are like, holy shit, man. Like, how long have you guys been around? Like, because the old ones have clearly been around a really long time. And, like, the Necrons, like, they learn, or not the Necrons don't exist yet. The Necron tier, like, they're talking to these old ones and they're like, oh my god, like your civilization's so advanced, you're all so powerful, you have like unrivaled psychic intelligence, like, and you live as far as we know, like forever. Can you give us the secret to immortality so we can no longer suffer from like this horrible cancer? Which I always wondered, like, would that actually fix anything, or would they end up in like the Wade Wilson situation where they have giga cancer but they just don't die?
Maybe. I
uh,
mean, because if they're having like face cancer, my my only question would probably be, okay, so they have like space cancer, but maybe their regenerative abilities are so
it's not
cracked,
abundantly
or maybe
clear.
it's a
It's not abundantly clear on how it works. They just have like a genetic disease due to radiation exposure over countless generations. Which I'm even surprised that they were able to reproduce and that they all just weren't sterile. But 40k science shenanigans magic doesn't make sense. Uh,
so maybe the regeneration's passive.
Maybe they never find out because the old ones tell them to get bent. And that they're not going to give them the secret to immortality, and that they just need to live their lives and figure it out. Uh, Naturally,
So does specific people have the formula for immortality, and they're
all
kind
of
of
the
just
old
maintaining
ones
it?
are no, all of the old ones are immortal. They just like just physically, I'm sure they know how, or at least how to extend their lives, or at least know how to give them chemotherapy. Uh, or something. Like I'm sure they have some form of medicine that they could give, but they just gotta tell the Necrons to get fucked. They're like, no, we're not gonna teach you. We're not gonna tell you anything. Go away. Um,
Sort of, in a way, kind of like, I guess, promoting more natural selection. Like if they figure it out, they figure it out, and if
oh no,
they
not at all, not at all. Because the old ones. I mean, remember
what?
remember Holy. The old ones seeded life across the galaxy. They literally created other species.
Oh, so they don't care.
No, they just don't care. They literally just don't
They
care.
just don't care.
Uh, or at least that's as far as I've been able to find out. There's again old ones, mysterious old beings with super psychic might and whatnot for story and lore purposes. So, not super clearly defined in their behavior. Maybe they did care, but like the nature of the Necrons, they worship death and are very unstable in terms of like personality. So
Yeah.
maybe you don't teach the unstable, semi crazy man how to be immortal. Uh, but anyway, bad things immediately follow that naturally because the Necrons all become. Or damn it, I keep saying I'm going to be calling them Necrons a lot through the course of this. But the Necron tier, it naturally become very jealous and very upset. But also, you know, due to them spreading out so much in the Empire now, instead of it just being on one planet, now spans across multiple planets that are kind of sectioning off part of the galaxy. A lot of those sub dynasties that answer to the Silent King and the Triarch kind of look at each other and like, you know what? Fuck this. Like I want to be in charge of my own piece of the galaxy. Why should I answer to the Silent King when he's all the way across like however many star systems? Like these people already answer to me directly. They look at me. We manage our own food. We do our own taxes and money and whatnot. And I don't see why he should be able to be the boss of me when he's literal light years away. And so, immediately this leads to a horrible situation called the Wars of Secession. In
A war of what?
the Wars of Secession, where pretty much
The
immediately the Necron dynasties are like, we're leaving. We want to declare our independence. The Triarchy goes, no, you can't do that. They say, what do you get? It's like, you'll have to kill me to make me stay. And immediately, all of the Necron tiers start infighting. It's like fucking people are killing each other because essentially one person doesn't want to listen to the big boss because the big boss is. It's like essentially if you were at your job and your manager who never shows up isn't there, and so the store manager who's there like decides, you know what, we're gonna start not doing company policy and do our own thing, and the like regional manager's like, hey, you can't do that. He's like, what are you gonna do? Come over here? And naturally he does, but instead of like getting a reprimand and a write-up, everybody pulled out knives and started shanking each other. uh, so
Jesus.
naturally the Triarchy's like, oh my god, what the hell are we gonna do? Like the Empire's falling apart, nobody's listening, there's no like unity. And what's the best way to find unity amongst people that are really diverse and have their own beliefs and all that? What's the best way to usually find unity?
Assimilation.
No, you blame someone else.
So that's what they did. They just blamed someone else.
Yeah, you get everybody to hate someone else so they can all be mad at that person instead of being mad at each other. The downside to that was that there wasn't really a credible threat to the Necron tier in the galaxy. Uh, that would justify everybody unifying. That couldn't kind of be stomped out because they're really the only spacefaring species right now, other than the old ones. So, mind you, the old ones who are gods that can alter alternate dimensions with their minds and have super advanced tech and live forever, uh, you know, remember those guys? Can you guess who they declare war on?
What?
They declare war on the old ones, and I also have written next to that just terrible fucking idea. uh, but yeah, no, just the Necron tier immediately declare war on the old ones, both to unify their people, but also just because they're really upset that the old ones would not teach them how to be immortal and like fix their disease stuff, and they it's very 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 common, like very into their nature to be bitter because of their lives, and their lives are miserable, so they are miserable people. So it's very common for them to be like, fuck this guy, and like flip a table. And so that's essentially what they did. Now, naturally, it didn't go well. The Necron tier pretty much got shit stomped. It wasn't even close. They got pushed all the way back to their original home planet. Uh, naturally, people were not very happy about this, and the dynasties again immediately started infighting as soon as they got pushed back to this planet in exile. The old ones also at any point could have wiped out like them as a species, but they didn't because, well, they were that inconsequential to them. They were like, we don't care. It's like you're literally nothing. So just stay over there and die slowly or whatever. So naturally, once the infighting starts back up, the War of Secession Part 2 begins, where they immediately go back for all the dynasties trying to leave the Empire because fuck this. We had all these planets. We could have been fine. It's like, yeah, you declared this stupid war on the old ones that we didn't even need to have in retrospect, and we could have just left and been fine. But now we're back on the Cancer planet. It's like we're back on the Cancer planet, and we don't want to be here anymore. Also, apparently, the War of Secession was so bad that between their like cancer and the wars, that they almost just went extinct as a species. They almost wiped themselves out. But naturally, the people who are in charge desperately want to not be extinct and also still want to be in charge. So they start like scrambling to find like an answer. Um, Now the thing is that like they don't really have an answer on how to fight the old ones. But at some
They
point,
don't.
no, they don't. But at some point, they run into the Catan. There's a lot of stories about the Catan, about how the Necrons met them from different cultures. One of them says that like it was a complete luck situation where the Necron tier sent out a deep space probe and just ran into this cloud of sentient gas eating energy around a star. Another one says from Eldar mythology that like their agony as a species acted like a beacon and called the Catan to them. Uh, there's just at some point there's just like somebody went out, found a Catan, and was like, "Hey, help us." Either way, they eventually meet the Catan and talk to them, which the Catan, mind you, are as old as creation itself, and their minds are like so vast and expansive that it is nigh impossible to understand how like the Necrontyr were even able to communicate with them because they're just that beyond the scope of like mortality. Like we're talking like they're literally linchpins in the fabric of reality, like physical reality at this point. Um but that they managed to commune with them somehow. And the Catan are like, "Hey, you know, help me out, please." The Necrontyr are like, "Please help us." And the Catan are like, "Okay, I guess, but we have no physical forms. How are we supposed to help you?" And the Necrons here were like, "Don't worry about it. We will build you physical bodies," which is a really fucking dumb idea. Um, because due to them being the big gas cloud that they were, they only really ate star energy that didn't have any taste. But once they got a physical form, they begin to experience hunger for the first time. and they
Who
and they
again?
the star gods, which could they since they never had a physical form, they didn't have like a body that could experience things. Once they were given one, they were like, "Huh, I'm like
And now they're
experience."
experiencing hunger.
Yeah, they're experiencing hunger for the first time. I'm just gonna put this back on the War in Heaven picture for you. That way we got a general idea. But they're experiencing hunger for the first time, and they're like, "Hmm." It's like this is actually pretty nice. Like things have taste and flavor now. Like this is a pretty good thing to be all about. Keep in mind that you should be very concerned when the immortal being that used to be something that eats literal stars can experience hunger. Um, so this leads to a very interesting interaction between the Silent King Zarek and a Catan named Mephetron, which is, or at least I think that's how it's enunciated. It's Mephet apostrophe Ran. Uh,
What?
yeah, don't worry about it too hard. Also, that translates to the deceiver. Naturally, he didn't introduce himself as the deceiver. He was formerly known as the messenger when he was first met by the Necrontyr, because he kind of went as like a not like as an emissary, but like as the forerunner, like to be the first of the Catan to make like full on contact with the Silent King, to be like, "Hey, we want to be your allies. Like we can help you. We'll make you immortal. We can free you from the burden of your curse. We'll even help you kill the old ones. And there's no cost whatsoever to this. Like we're doing it all just out of the like extreme appreciation for you giving us physical bodies," which is an absolute lie. Like he's the deceiver. He is known by the other Catan as the deceiver. He has apparently been such a deceptive ass for so long that even he doesn't remember why he became like that. um, and this this is like an intriguing offer to Zarek. He's like, weird. I don't know. I don't know if I trust it that much. It's like, you're really new. We just met you. I mean, but we really want to be immortal. and the dynasties really need to be united. Like he even promised like Xerxes like we can unite your people and you'll all be unified as one. There will be no more conflict. And he's like, man, I just we really need this or we're gonna go extinct as a species. And God, like like it just like I really miss when we weren't killing each other all the time. Uh, and so you know, uh, he goes, they convene for like months, and with the other pharaohs, and they talk about it, and pretty much every single one of them is on board except for one guy who's named Orican, and Orican is a big deal. Uh, Orican at this point is just a Necrontyr astronomer slash astrologer, and he predicts that like, yo, we are gonna become immortal, but you are gonna destroy the souls of the Necrontyr in the process. If we do that, we shouldn't do it. And pretty much everybody says, you don't know what you're fucking talking about, fucking star guy. All you do is look at stars all day. You don't know anything about the future, you fucking idiot. Uh, and they move on, and they go through with it, and they make a deal. The alliance is forged, and now the
Yeah.
Catan are officially helping the Necron tier. The Catan have noticed though that they can feed on souls at this point. They can eat souls, kinda. I mean, they haven't started eating souls officially, but they do like get physical nourishment from the worship of the Necron tier, because the Necron tier basically believe that the Catan are like avatars of their death god or like servants thereof, and they're like, oh my god, like, which I mean, to be fair, these are things that can literally like snuff planets. So it's like, oh my god, like our death god has finally answered our prayers. He's sending us salvation. Like he sent his avatars, his heralds. They're going to grant us immortality for our dedication to him. And meanwhile, the power of belief in 40k, just kind of as a weird aside here, is actually very real in terms of situations like this. Like the guy, like you can create demons and gods through belief. They're born through this sort of thing. So kind of not inaccurate that they are gods for all intents and purposes, having the power of an entire species behind them and worshiping them. Uh, so they are genuinely feeding off of this, just the same way demons might, but it's a little different because they're not born in the immaterium. They were made in the physical realm and are strictly only exist in the physical realm. So we're moving on to what I like to call Skelly Boy time. This is where the Necrons are made, and I'm going to give you a quote here. Uh, it's an excerpt from the book of Mournful Night, that is the Eldar book that talks about where the Catan came from. Uh, and the quote is, "When the Silent King saw what had been done, he knew at last the true nature of the Catan and the doom they had wrought in his name." And essentially, what ends up happening is, the Necrons are given like all these really cool gifts by the Catan, and they're given like these ships that use like quantum phase technology that can like hyper jump through. They can go really fast. They don't need to take these really long ways to go get everywhere. They're given great weapons and like Gauss. Well, not, I think plasma, but mostly Gauss rifles, like things that, like when you get shot by it as a human, you get disintegrated within seconds of being struck by it. So like like just dematerialized, like on an atomic level, like giving these really cool, just all these cool technologies. And finally the Catan are like, hey, that promise of immortality, we're going to give that to you right now. And
No exception.
no exception, every single person of the Necron Empire, whether you be noble or despot, or whether you be noble, a farmer, a merchant, or some homeless fuck who's asking for change on the side of the street, uh you know they're like, hey, all of you, immortal, we've got you. We care about you as our allies. We're your friends. We're gonna come through on that promise we made you. And they create these big biotransference chambers, which is it's like a furnace in a way. Uh, and when as each person steps through the biotransference chamber, their flesh is devoured, and they're put into a new metal body made of necrodermis, this living metal. which I'm going to pull up a picture of Necrons for you right now because Necrons look really cool. And yes, they look like the Terminator. They're not even trying when it comes to this one. Uh, as you can tell, they're really into their green lightning shenanigans. Uh, which like is just I just think Necrons are really cool. Uh, Probably top tier, like second coolest faction in the game behind Chaos. Uh, Now the downside about biotransference is that Zarek unrealizingly fucked over literally everybody because their bodies weren't the only thing that was devoured when they went through biotransference. uh, the Catan ate their souls.
How do you even conceptualize eating soul?
Well, not sure, really. Probably about the same way that demons do it, where just when your soul gets eaten, you're supposed to die as an individual if you're in a living body, but the Catans are weird like that. But essentially, they just ate what made them them. It's described as having an everlasting emptiness within yourself that didn't exist there before. So essentially, just the general removal of what makes you an individual, and not in, well, I mean literally in the sense, because a lot of the Necrons also became mindless foot soldiers because their brain, due to them not having a soul, they did not maintain their intellect or personalities, so they became soulless murder machines. Except for the ones with the strongest will, who still lost their soul, but could remember who they were and had a mind that was simply ingrained into a program.
They lost their soul,
But
but
yeah,
they still remembered their past.
yes. Which Zarek immediately realizes that he fucked up. He's like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" Uh, because he's like, "I have literally given our souls to these hungry, like all-consuming beings. Oh shit, I can't take it back. I have damned my entire race to being soulless machines for the rest of eternity." Um, I think even I don't know if they would survive the heat death of the universe, but yeah, they have no souls anymore. He also got the unity he asked for because of this. He was given full engrammatic commands over his entire species.
What?
Yeah, he was given engrammatic commands because they're all soulless machines now, which means they don't have individuality or free will. And he's given protocols and commands that he could give them that they can't escape, and they must.
No, no, there's no way.
Yes, this is how it is now for the Necrons. There were others other than Zarek who retained his their like individual free will, like Orikin, for instance, who was not very happy. Uh, I'm pretty sure Orikin got dragged kicking and screaming through the fucking biotransference chamber. He did not go willingly. Uh, he did not walk through willingly. I think they had to make him. Uh, but fucking he wasn't very happy. Trazyn is another one, which these are characters we'll cover at a later date. We're definitely going to cover Trazyn. Trazyn is a big deal and actually one of the most important members of 40k just in general in terms of stealing shit and being an asshole. Uh, Now the other side of them getting their souls eaten was that a lot of them just were kind of okay with it. The ones who maintain their intellect are like, "Oh my god, I'm immortal now. Like I'm gonna live forever. No wound can really only the most devastating of wounds can really destroy me. Like, and if you're like a lord like Zarek and them, like you can just mind hop your body into one of your foot soldiers and come back. Like as far as you're concerned, you're literally immortal. uh, and so you end up now the downside of that is that the Catan are like super juiced off eating the souls of an entire species. And also the Necrons hate all sentient life in the galaxy. I mean, they kind of already did before, but now they specifically hate all organic life because they're no longer organic. And so now, uh, I just have typed here galacticgenocide.exe boots up. Uh, but yeah, no, they just begin like genociding entire planets.
Oh
uh,
my lord.
yeah. Mm, I uh I got nothing, man. This is how it goes when you're a Necron. So, naturally, with the newfound might of the Catan, which the Catan are described as unstoppable at this point, which is going to make the ending
Unstoppable?
unstoppable, which is going to make the ending of this even more confusing for you when we get there. Uh, if you have something on in the back, turn off whatever you have on in the background, or turn it down. I can hear it.
One of those 24/7 things on YouTube.
Oh, okay, okay. Because it came through. I don't. I'm gonna have to fix that in audio later. Um, and so
So they're unstoppable.
they're unstoppable. So naturally, with the might of these newly found unstoppable star gods, also by the way, I'm gonna give you a quick synopsis of what it's described when a star god arrives at your planet. Your planet burns. He,
So wait, it burns?
yeah, like
No way.
planets are like literally razed. Stars get extinguished. Entire systems are pulled into black holes that have been just generated into reality. Like
And
like
there's no. So is it what, do you have like 30 seconds to just experience everything, or
No,
is
it
it
just
just all
no. They
spontaneous?
arrive, and if they're sending the Necrons to do it, then you might fight back. You can certainly try, but usually
But
you get vaporized, and then your soul gets eaten by a Catan. Uh, or a Catan just arrives at your planet, looks at your planet, and goes no, and then the planet ceases to exist. Or it eats the star in your solar system, and your entire solar system.
what?
Yeah, or it might just go, I don't want this solar system to be here anymore, and it opens a black hole and it eats the entire solar system.
So okay, all right. Now,
Some of them
I
can.
do have a question, but this
What's the?
is
Ask the
definitely.
question. This is class. Ask the question.
Do the sun? Okay, so do the sun gods, not sun gods, the star gods, do they still exist in current timeline with pyramids and everything?
Sort of, kinda. There's one that's intact, still running around, but I'm pretty sure he's called the Mad One. But nobody really wants to mess with him, and he doesn't do much. Uh, Other than be insane and kill anyone who comes near him.
Okay, so pretty much fucking frenzy at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna cover what happens to the Catan at the end of this. Because the Catan aren't major players, kind of in a way anymore. Uh, but like how do the Catan not be major players when they're capable of such shenanigans? We'll get to that. But yeah. Also, there's this guy. He's called Nyadrazath. It's spelled Nyadra apostrophe Zath. There's a lot of apostrophes. Um, it's going to get even worse when we do the episode on when we actually cover the chaos gods. Um,
I have not noticed.
yeah. So remember the old ones and all that shenanigans with the technology they made and whatnot.
Yeah,
They made this
the
thing.
old ones.
Yeah, they made this thing called the Webway, which is like through the Immaterium, but it's a lot safer because it kind of blocks out all the psychic shenanigans that go on. And it's kind of like you walk through a webway gate and you're like in another part of the galaxy. Um, so the Catan find a way to breach that.
What?
Yeah, they create these things called dolmen gates, which are actually very unstable. They're not great ways of getting in. Because naturally they have like subroutines to protect themselves from breaches. Because the last thing you want in your giant tunnel through the realm of souls is for there to be a breach in your giant tunnel through the realm of souls. And so the dole, naturally it has protocols. And so once the Necrons go in to invade, they're like, "Oh shit, we got to be quick." Because if we aren't, the fucking webway gate itself is gonna kill us. And so, like, you gotta move quick. Most of them no longer exist anymore. They're either completely unused by the Necrons because the webway now is a giant labyrinth that's only really navigated by the Eldar and the Drukhari, which they're gonna get their own episode at some point for sure, especially the Eldar and Drukhari. Uh, all the species I've brought up are going to get their own episode, except maybe like the Slan and the Dracairo will probably have like a general aliens episode where we cover some of the life that runs around the wacky world of Warhammer 40k. Uh, and uh, what is it? So the downside of them being able to invade these webway portals is that now they can use the webway portals.
But
So
how can they use the webway portals?
well, I mean, it's the same way. Imagine if someone like blew a hole in a tunnel. Like you could still use the tunnel as long as the tunnel doesn't cave in.
Yeah.
So it's like damn, like it's like shit. The tunnel. It's like there's a guy who breached the tunnel and he's now using that breach in the tunnel to run to faster to get to places where he can stab people with a knife, which is exactly what the Necrons are doing. They breached the webway gates and we're now using the webway gates to get across the galaxy even faster. And so now the old ones are still getting absolutely dunked on. Uh, now, um, Galactic,
But
there's this thing called Red Harvest, where essentially the Necrons are being sent to planets to kill their entire population to feed the Catan because the Catan hunger for souls. But also the Catan are realizing that each other are now the biggest souls in the galaxy. So now they're gonna start. So now they're infighting. The Catan are infighting with each other.
but
Yeah.
I'm actually just kind of surprised that they would just start fighting each other
Well, you got to
so
realize that
quickly.
this is all being driven by hunger. This is not like a tactical thing to get back at the old ones. Which, speaking of, part of the lie that the deceiver told Zarek was that the
Oh
Catan.
yeah, that's right. They did experience. Now they had a body that they experienced hunger, so they're really fighting to satiate their hunger.
Right, they really like to eat
Cannibalism.
souls. Yeah, essentially they're realizing that the biggest souls in the galaxy are each other, and so now they're gonna start eating each other because you know it's like, damn, we've been eating entire planets, and it's just like, but I'm still so hungry. I need more. I need more. I need more. I need more. And then you look over and you realize that, hey, such and such has got a soul bigger than mine, or like just as big as mine. That's gotta be like just as filling. It's like that'll definitely satiate my hunger for a while, and then they start killing and eating, get infighting problems because the ones who don't want to get eaten naturally fight back, and the ones that want to eat them attack them. Uh, Also, it was part of the lie to convince the Necrons the now Necrons, formerly Necrontyr, to trust them. Was like, oh, hey man, you know, we need like the old ones actually made us like this, and we want to get back at them, and that's why you should trust us. You and I, we're the same. We're in the same boat. We both hate them because they both like back. They did horrible shit to us. But not really. Um, Essentially, the red harvests that are kicking up, though, as I brought up before, are essentially just the Necrons arriving at a planet, wiping out all life on it, and then leaving. Uh, and give it in, the Catan are eating the souls. The downside to doing that is that when you're moving as at rapid of a pace as the Necrons are, you're running out of things to kill. And so
Naturally, you're
like,
fighting everybody.
yeah, and winning, mind you, they're winning too.
They're fighting, winning, and they're eating souls.
Yep, and they're running out of souls, uh, which is bad because the
Okay, wait. So is this? It's okay. So the Catan, are they having this sort of? They're having this sort of pendulum stairs kind of paradox thing going on, where like they are now experiencing hunger, so they're going to kill, consume souls, but the souls aren't enough to keep them satiated, so they're going to keep on doing like a circle, kind of like the serpent eating itself.
Yeah, there aren't enough souls to satiate the literally endless hunger of the Catan, but they're gonna keep trying. And
Instead
so,
of trying to find a way to,
well, the only way for them to no longer be hungry would be to give up their physical bodies, and they don't want to do that because they enjoy the feeling of hunger.
hmm, but they're immortal.
Exactly.
But so,
Are you seeing the
hmm,
issue?
they're immortal. Them having
They'll
a body is honestly a bonus.
they were already immortal before having a body, and now they have a body that now that due to them having a physical body, they unlocked like Gmod powers, and they're just like flinging planets around and eating stars and souls because they're that hungry. And so anyway, getting back on track because we're starting to get derailed a little bit here. Remember those old ones who are fighting? Well, they're not extinct yet, and they are fucking desperate for help from anywhere. And so they begin raising up warrior species that they're teaching to defend themselves and also are more psychically attuned to the warp. So it's like, hey, well, not the warp, but like the realm of souls. And they're like, hey, man, like we're gonna raise you up. We're gonna give you psychic powers, and we need you to help us. Please, God, help us fight the Necrons because they are killing us. They are killing us, and they'll kill you too. They'll kill you. It doesn't matter if you help us, or you're gonna have to fight back at some point. So you might as well ally yourselves with us. It's like,
And the Necrons are really bodying them, huh?
nah, it's bad. But due to the infighting, things kind of break down, and now the tide is going to turn a little bit here because the old ones have the gang now. They're now jumping them. It's like it's like they've
What?
got the Eldar, they've got Crorks, they've got tons of alien species helping them, and the infighting is happening because the Catan are too busy fighting each other to actually pay attention to some of them getting picked off here and there. And they're like, wait a fucking moment, we're not getting as many souls. What the hell's going on? And they realize, oh shit, there's like a lot of new random species that are actually able to fight us, and they're using the Immaterium to do it, which the Catan actually can't do anything about because they have no connection because they themselves don't possess souls. They can only eat them, so they don't actually influence the warp in any way and are extreme. I don't think they're vulnerable to it, but they can't do anything to like fight psychic
The,
attacks. Like
the
they can
Necrons?
the Necrons don't have souls anymore, so they can't do anything about the fighting warp attacks either. If a psyker
But
shows up and goes, "Hey man, psychic storm," like there's nothing they can do about that.
Psychic Storm.
Which is a thing that
Wait,
happened.
no, no, wait. But hold on. They have but the Necrons practically have magic, though.
They have technology that's almost like magic. They have physical like reality stuff that's so advanced that it's similar to magic, not actual magic.
So they can't do anything to defend against
Like 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 like
what's going on.
Saying, well, kind of, sort of. They have this. We're gonna come up on some really important down the road material here. So they're gonna build these black stone pylons on this planet called Cadia. And this is a very important planet because there's an entire series called The Fall of Cadia, and I don't know if you know this, but that sounds pretty important to me. Uh, and
No,
so
that does sound really important.
And so they build these pylons to help contain. Basically, like these black pylons, these black stone pylons can like create a bubble of like real space around the Immaterium to contain it. And they're like, "Oh man, we're gonna build these pylons. Things are gonna be great. Everything's gonna be fine." And they build it, and they start getting it contained, and they immediately go back to beating up the old ones again because the Catan have stopped infighting in order to get this back under control because they're like, okay, we're gonna go back to actually killing the old ones like we had planned out. It's enough fighting each other. Also, the infighting thing might have been caused by the Eldar laughing god Kegarak. No one really knows. It's supposed to be like
What
a
makes you suggest that?
the Eldar say so in their myths, but there's not really any proof. There's like supposedly Kegarak went to this guy called the Outsider, one of the Catan and like put it in his head. He's like, "Hey, you know, like, have you ever considered that like your fellow Catan are like really big souls and they're just as like devourable as they're just as devourable as like the sentient species that you're eating now, but they're just so much larger. Wouldn't it be a great idea to try?" And I guess the outsider just fucking goes with it and doesn't question where this random Eldar god came from and why it's talking to him. Uh,
that is crazy.
like I guess he just
So
doesn't question why that happened, or at any point goes, maybe this guy's like attempting to breed distrust amongst us. But I he's got a pretty good idea. I like the cut of his jib. He's got a solid idea going. I'm gonna go for it.
so is it more so like he didn't question it, or are they just that weak to mind
Definitely more
hacks?
they didn't question it, because if they were all that weak to mind hacks, then the deceiver would have long since been ruling all of the Catan like eons ago. They're all very independent of each other. It's not like the deceiver was in charge and that's why he showed up to the Necrons first. It was definitely just he was like, "Damn, I can really scam the shit out of these guys. I'm gonna go over there real quick."
Now, did they pose a threat to him, the deceiver? So he felt like he needed to just cause a distraction so he could further out what he wanted to do, or is he kind of just a contrarian
He's
and
just an
just wanted to
asshole.
see what would happen?
He's just an asshole.
Okay, all right.
Don't you're thinking in the terms of like this is like a regular like mortal sentient being. This is like a star god. He could blink and the Necron tier simply would have ceased to exist.
He just wanted to see what happens.
He literally just wanted to use them as weapons for to feed himself. Yeah, he's just an asshole. He's um also remember the enslaver thing I brought up again. Remember that
Yeah,
enslaver plague? Okay, so
you,
remember the
you,
in the
you brought
realm.
it up a little bit.
Remember the realm of souls.
Yeah,
You know how like
vaguely.
a small piece of the realm of souls is the realm of chaos because like there's always going to be some strife in the galaxy, but life wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Well, this war has been happening for millions of years. And the downside to anything lasting millions of years, especially something like a war, is that it tends to make people feel certain ways. Um, and the absolute sheer fucking destruction of what was going on in this war, like planetary genocides and these souls being sent screaming into the immaterium in like fear and pain, uh, kind of fucked with the realm of souls a little bit, a lot of bit, and created the realm of chaos.
And that's how chaos is born.
And this is where the realm of chaos happens. Now, the downside about the realm of chaos versus the realm of souls is sure the realm of souls is like a little fucky, but it doesn't actively try and kill you. The realm of chaos will actively try and kill you. And so
In any possible, like any way
in
possible,
any
pretty
way it
much.
can get its hands on you. Like it's a big reason why Geller fields are necessary when you're making warp jumps, because if you don't have one, the literal like tendrils of the warp start trying to rip your ship apart.
What?
Yeah, it's a big deal. Also, uh weirdness about that is that now it's trying to breach the webway. Because initially the realm of souls was just kind of like flowing near it, and things would occasionally run into it, and then it's like, that's not good, but it's not breaking anything. Well, now all of it's just trying to get in. It's just trying to get into the webway actively, and it succeeds.
Because there's no defensive measures.
Oh no, there are, but they're not good enough to keep up with like it's like, imagine like someone trying to send like, yeah, it's like someone poking a hole in the side of a boat with like, you know, like a weird like a sword or something. Isn't that bad? I mean, sure, there's a hole in your boat, but you can fix that pretty easily. When someone takes a fucking cannon and blows up half the boat, he's like, probably not good. The boat's probably not good. You might be able to save some of the boat, but you're not saving all of the boat. Uh,
And the tendrils from the Realm of Chaos did that.
Yeah, they breach the webway, demons and shit. Not really demons actually at this point, but like entities from the warp start flooding the webway, and so the old ones start destroying the webway gates because because it's like, all right, that's not good. Um,
So
it's like we can't use it. Much better that we make sure that the things in the warp can't get out. We should probably just destroy the webway gates. And they destroy as many of them as they can. They don't get them all, and this really unique species of the warp, which it's not a demon, it's actually just a naturally occurring like fauna of the warp, uh, begins to emerge, and it's called an enslaver. It does exactly what you think it does. It steals your mind
and
from
so
you and bends you to its will to kill people and to open up more portals into the warp.
how how and the old ones didn't calculate. They didn't predict that something like this could happen. It's just an anomaly.
The old ones are smart. They're not all knowing. I mean, virtually compared to the Necrons here, they were all knowing, but they're not literally. They knew every single thing and can see the future. It's like, oh, we beat up the Necrons here. I cannot foresee how driving them back to a super irradiated planet would lead to the near extinction of all life in the galaxy.
Or
uh,
they're immortal, so they're actually. Well, I was about to say they're immortal, so they're okay. But also, if they're feeding for
they're
souls,
not
that's not a good thing.
they're not immortal in the sense of they can't be murdered. They're immortal in the sense of that they'll live for a very long time. They can 100% be murdered.
So then,
That's
how are they immortal?
immortal. Immortal does not necessarily mean invulnerable, and immortal is also weird because you could say, like, if you wished for a genie to make you immortal, there's a non-zero chance it'll just make you live forever. That does not necessarily mean be invulnerable to being killed.
So you have to say, so they would have to be invulnerable. Like,
They'd have to be something like a perpetual. A perpetual, they are immortal in the sense of they can respawn, like they'll come back eventually. Uh,
but the old ones cannot respawn. They can only just live forever if they're not harmed.
yeah, which I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very hard to harm an old one due to their technology and psychic prowess. But we're talking about things that eat entire solar systems for breakfast. So like if it was just the Necrons, I don't think the Necrons would have beaten the old ones. Like if it was just them fighting the old ones, I think everything would have been fine. I mean, tons of people would have probably died still, but it would have been like, damn, should have killed them while we had the chance. We're gonna wipe them out now, whatever. But it's
Yeah.
it's specifically the Catan that are the biggest issue, and now with the addition of the enslavers, which prey specifically on people who use psychic things, uh,
And
they're
Tyranids.
no Tyranids aren't here yet. Tyranids don't show up until like year 38,000. They're really new actually to the world of
But they
40K.
they still they still go after those who are psychics, though, right? Like,
No, no, that's they have a weird shadow in the warp that makes psychers act crazy. Um, well, crazier. Most psychers already act pretty crazy because they can hear the whispers of the warp in their head. We're getting off topic. We'll cover Tyranids on another day. All right. Uh, which you're gonna have to wait a while on the Tyranid episode to be honest with you, because Tyranids don't happen until like way down the line. Uh,
oh my lord.
we still have to get through the second war in heaven. We have the unification wars, the dark age of technology, the age of strife, the Horus heresy. There's tons of stuff that's going to be in between that and the arrival of the Tyranids. All right. So you're just gonna have to sit tight. I understand that you have questions, but about them and that they're really cool, being genetically perfect apex predators. But we just don't have the time for that. And really, I'm killing time by giving you this explanation right now. Anyway, focusing back, the enslavers. Listen, we're doing enslavers right now. The enslavers are like weird jellyfish esque monsters, and they bind themselves to people who have psychic talent to make them open more portals into the warp, so more enslavers can get in.
And it's just rinse and repeat.
Pretty much. Which, mind you, the stronger of a psyker you are, like the better your connection to the warp is, the bigger a portal you can open, And when old ones start getting body snatched by enslavers, it's not great. And
Body snatched.
pretty much, pretty much. Um, I mean, they do. They like. I mean, the old ones do put up a pretty valiant effort to like shut it down. Like they like I mean, effectively by doing what they did to the webway, they turned it into a giant labyrinth that only the Eldar know how to navigate now. So good slash bad. Uh, we're gonna get into the Eldar next because that's the second war in heaven, which is gonna be good. This is gonna be pretty cool. Uh, but like and also probably the birth of Slanesh as well. So that'll be something to get into. Which I guess after we cover them, we'll get into the chaos gods and the realms of chaos and the demons within it. I think that would be a good episode, the third episode. But I'll get around to it. Don't worry. But anyway, uh, so after the enslaver plague, um, and everything goes down, the Catan the Catan dunking on them. The old ones just don't have it in them anymore. They can't hold their empire together. They're too fractured. The ones who are still alive are horribly fractured apart. They're never going to be able to reunite. That's it. It's the end. The old one empire officially comes to a close, and it's unknown whether their entire species went extinct or if they simply fled the galaxy. There's no confirmation. I personally believe that they fled the galaxy. Yeah, I believe they fled the galaxy because I don't really know what else they would do. I don't really believe that the Catan would bother like scouring the entire galaxy to kill every single old one. And I'm sure a few of them could have escaped and just been like, "No, this war isn't worth fighting anymore. It's a lost cause." Between the enslavers and the Catan, we're all gonna die if we stay in a fight. We need to leave. We're gonna have to. The species we've risen up. I understand that we have like a kind of care for life, except for Necrontyr apparently, because apparently the Necrontyr can just get fucked. But like we have a care for life and how precious it is, but we can't stay. We're leaving. Uh, and after the old ones officially become a non-factor in the enslavers, all life is seemingly doomed across the galaxy. And so essentially, the Catan, while celebrating their triumph over the old ones, remember Zarek? Remember Zarek and him being upset that he doomed his entire species to being soulless?
Yeah.
Well, Zarek hasn't just been willfully serving the Catan this entire time. He's actually been having a hard time dealing with the burden of what he's done, and he has a lot of like moral guilt. And immediately fucking betrays the Catan at the end of the war. He he immediately goes, okay,
What?
yep, because they gave him the Catan don't have full control over the Necrons. He has full control over the Necrons, and he has decided that they are betraying the Catan because holy shit, I can't deal with this anymore. I've done a horrible thing, and also these guys are like pretty bad. And also they just want to rule the galaxy. Just overall, it's like we're the sworn rulers of the galaxy at this point. We deserve it more. We've been through all this shit. It's like my people believed in me to bring them immortality. Well, they have more immortality now, and I'll be damned if we aren't. And I'll be damned if I'll spend the rest of my literal eternity as a slave. And so they rise up. Somehow this catches the Catan off guard. I don't really know how, considering that. I mean, they literally left Zarek's mind intact. I'm sure that they probably could have assumed at some point that Zarek would be resentful. Um, and apparently the Necrons built in secret somehow these extremely powerful weapons that could literally shatter the bodies of the Catan. Uh, don't know how they built these guns without getting caught. Don't know how they got the drop on the Catan. Don't know how they beat the Catan anyway, even with these shattering guns. Not really properly explained. Uh, but they shatter the Catan into thousands of smaller fragments. And apparently these guns were so powerful that they damaged causality itself. Yeah, they like damaged the fabric of the universe. So try not to worry too hard about that. It literally is only brought up this once from what I've seen. It's never been brought up again at any point in 40k about why this is not more important or why it is important because apparently it doesn't matter. Because I feel like it would be a big deal if someone did something that literally shook the fabric of existence. But this is a very common thing in 40k where there's a lot of cool stuff that they don't ever expand on or write books about or explain, and they're just like rule of cool. Big god killing gun goes burr. um, but apparently, damage causality, the Catan gets shattered into pieces because you can't kill a Catan. They're too entrenched in like the physical realm in terms of like their existence is just that great that they can't die. There's nowhere for them to pass on to because they're just that locked into reality. But they can be broken, and so they shattered them into shards, and they put these shards into things called the Tesseract Labyrinths. Some of them being put into certain stasis fields and power modules, and the enslaving Catan are now slaves to the Necrons. Just Uno reverse card. He had exactly one Uno reverse card in his hand in the game of Uno, and he was looking the Catan square in the eye and won the game. Like after the guy dropped like 17 cards in a row, thinking he was gonna win. Uh, and so now the Necrons, they're back. They have all this mighty technology and nigh indestructible bodies. And Holy, that sounds pretty good, right? You think they've got it. You think everything's gonna be cool, right? Are you there?
Right.
Oh, yep. You just went really quiet. I was like, are you
Goodness gracious. Brain is exploding a little bit.
there? I can hear the
But we're
buffer.
good.
I can hear the buffer symbol in your head as you're trying to process. All right. And can okay, and so now can you guess what the Necrons do next? There's one event left that the Necrons do. Is it because shit's pretty bad in the galaxy right now. There's enslavers everywhere. The Eldari are here. The Kroks are here. Um, but in Necrons, they're looking at the galaxy and they're like, "Damn, things are just really fucking scuffed here. Things are just really bad right now. We're gonna go to sleep."
So they hibernate.
Yeah. Essentially, Zarek gives an order. He orders all of the Necron dynasties and the Necrons to build these massive tomb worlds, where essentially they build. It's exactly something they build these underground tombs. And then immediately he orders his people to sleep, and they will simply wait until the enslavers leave. The Eldari are beginning to rise up and become the new rulers of the stars in the galaxy as they know it, because the Kroks are too busy killing each other again, because Kroks are going to turn into orcs at some point. Don't really know how. Think they just beat themselves until they de-evolve into orcs. Uh,
Right.
uh, but the Eldar are on the rise. They're becoming the rulers of the stars. They're too strong to fight outright right now after them having freshly beaten the Catan. And they're like, it's like, but due to them being immortal and their bodies will never decay, they go, we will simply wait until it is our time to emerge, where we will take our place as the rightful rulers of the galaxy. And after Zarek orders his people to go to sleep, he deletes his engrammatic commands. He giving them all all the ones with sentience, free will once again. And instead of going to sleep like the rest of the Necrons did, he goes to the intergalactic void, and he doesn't turn himself off, and he just sits there with himself for 60 million years.
Why?
In penance, he feels like legitimate extreme guilt over what he doomed his species to be. Uh, it is his fault if he had never agreed to what he wanted. Because, like, even though he did have a council with the other pharaohs, they're like advisors. They give their opinion about whether or not something is a good idea. Ultimately, the decision still fell down to him as to whether or not they would accept help from the Catan. And and so ultimately, the it does kind of fall on his shoulders. It's like, so he feels a lot of remorse. He goes into the galactic void to like pay his penance and simply wait for their time to return to prominence. Which honestly, I'm gonna be honest here. If even if they did work out properly and they did wait until it's time to return, I guarantee it. Like almost within a month of them being back and taking over the galaxy, that they would all be infighting again. I
What in the world?
I guarantee it. Because he gave them freedom, and all those dynasties still kind of want to be in fucking charge. Uh, because their lords still have their minds intact, especially like Imhotep, and yeah, not being very hidden with that one. Fucking Imhotep and Imhotep. Oh, who could have fucking guessed? But yeah, especially him. But he, he's that's not a thing right now. We'll cover him in a later episode. Again, there's a lot of cool characters that we'll probably cover at some point or another. I'll probably just do a whole unit on major characters, but right now we're just doing the timeline, unit 1, lesson 1 of important events, lesson 1, War in Heaven. Uh, but yeah, uh, and this plan to go to sleep does work for a while. Um, Can you guess why the plan doesn't work after a certain amount of time?
Mm, nothing lasts forever.
Right, but can you guess what caused the nothing lasts forever to work to happen?
The Roman chaos?
Nope.
Potentials?
No.
Uh, more infighting?
They're all asleep. They won't wake up until the tomb world is told to wake up.
Okay, so they're not infighting, they're asleep, but something goes wrong. They get ambushed.
Mm,
They get attacked?
kind of. Kind of. An Adeptus Mechanicus expedition finds a tomb world and turns it on.
Why?
They didn't know what it was, and the Adeptus Mechanicus, being the absolute fucking morons that they are, sometimes were like, "Oh man, there's like so much cool shit in here. We should immediately start touching things without thinking about the consequences of it." And they wake up a tomb world, which leads to a bunch of tomb worlds waking up early. And now the Necrons are back in the midst of 40k. In the midst of 40k. And they come back and they're like, there's still organic life here, these goddamn disgusting creatures, and there's people who worship chaos now? Like, what is this? And they're just
They
all
tweak, they
they're all
crash
just
out.
really upset. They're all extremely upset that these like, because I mean, holy, you gotta realize that they're like 60 million years old. They're like the old men of the galaxy, and all these random children are on their lawn.
Hibernating.
Having a fist fight, and they're like, they woke up from a nap and there's like a group of teenagers fist fighting in their front yard, and he's just gone to get his gun to get rid of them. And so, and that's essentially where we're at. That's bringing the Necrons. That's bringing the War in Heaven pretty much to a general close, and the events that kind of kick off thereafter. Now, that's not like everything involving Necrons, like up until current day, but that's pretty much the general synopsis. We'll have a dedicated Necron episode, of course, when I eventually decide to do dedicated faction episodes. But right now, like that's kind of just the general idea of what we're going with. Um, like you have like a better grasp on the War in Heaven now. Do you feel, or is your brain? Do you feel like your brain is frying? Like where are you sitting at?
My brain is, if I could conjure a buffering symbol on my brain, I would conjure it, no questions asked.
All
My
right,
brain is fried, but I'm sure after I process it, things will make a little bit more sense. The Necrons are pretty fucking badass, and I kind of like the Katans.
do you
They're
do you like the Catan because they're assholes, or do you just think that, or do you just like that they're hyper powerful beings?
I kind of like that they're hyper powered beings that discover hunger.
Do you have like any questions about just in general anything that I covered? Is there anything that you might want to go back and get more detail on, things that concepts that might bother you about it, stuff like that? Or are you just in processing phase? You gotta let it all sink in.
I think I'm in processing phase, but I feel a question burrowing out of my skull.
Oh, what's the question? What's the question you got for me?
After everything that has happened so far for the first war in heaven, why are people beings still messing with things, not knowing what could happen?
Well, to be fair, humanity was not here for the war in heaven. We did not exist yet. And they didn't even know Necrons existed.
Give them a pass.
Beyond that, um, pride before the fall. A lot of the time, people just think that they're smarter than what they are. They think, oh, I can totally handle this power. I'm gonna touch that thing, and they touch that thing, and that thing fucking kills them.
Also, was there any Catans that maybe were okay with not having a body so they didn't have to experience hunger,
Um,
thus not infighting?
as far as I'm aware, all of them embraced it. There's not really a
Damn.
mention of a specific Catan not wanting a body, but but also like I'm sure many of them also was like, damn, it sucks being hungry all the time. Uh, in the same vein, they wouldn't have been able to know that they would lead to endless hunger either upon receiving a physical body because they'd always existed as just the giant gas clouds, pretty much. So it's kind of like a up in the air sort of situation. I'm sure there's some who kind of wish they like, damn, kind of wish I was still the gas cloud because this being hungry is awful.
Not it.
Uh, but also at the same time, they probably got a certain sense of satisfaction from stuffing themselves with souls at the same time. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there were some who probably had some reservations initially, but then they probably just started to go with it. Probably just started to roll with
Uh,
it. Also, like, another thing I kind of want to draw back on is like that Eldar Laughing God. I've heard different accounts where supposedly the Eldar Jackal God helped, which my whole thing on that was that seems even more suspicious than the Eldar Laughing God talking to me.
what in the world?
It's like, wow, the Eldar Laughing God is here, the man known for pulling pranks, and then the other one, who is a known liar, is telling me to do this. Then again, I guess they do hang out with the deceiver all the time, so they're probably just used to having known liars be around them. So I don't know.
So they're all little fucking devilish contrarians.
Not all of them. Most of them are just hungry. Some of them are just very destructive. Like that who was it? What was his name? God, I gotta look back at my notes now. The Oh Christ, it's fucking mixed in here somewhere. The Neadrazoth guy. He was known as the Burning One. He just liked destroying things. Like the reason why they even bothered invading the webway was because he desperately wanted to bring his fire there. That was it. They literally didn't need to. He just really wanted to. So some of them do just have destructive nature situations going on. Like they just really want to break stuff. They want to kill things. So they do have their own personalities. I mean, we don't ever really get into it. I'm pretty sure one of them becomes known as the Void Dragon and gets killed by the Emperor. I don't know for sure if that is what that is, or if the Void Dragon is something entirely separate. That's going to be something I'm going to have to research separately when I eventually tell you about the birth of the Emperor and all his shenanigans that come with it. Which that's going to be pretty important. We'll also probably cover this thing called the Last Church, which I think is cool. But it's not really a super important event, but I think it does help you kind of understand the Emperor's personality a little better. But again, that's for future episode reference, stuff like that. Beyond the why do people keep touching things when it keeps causing problems, I don't know. Also, admittedly, still kind of a valid question to ask humanity when literally the dark age of technology happened and they almost got wiped out by AI. So, don't really understand why they would still touch some random terminal in a giant green and black tomb world. But, you know, Adeptus Mechanicus going to Adeptus Mechanicus. But any further questions, comments, potential things you might want to cover, like in terms of like topics you might want to hear in the future? Because I'm not sure I want to go in full order. I'm probably going to go for this first unit, but when we get to like characters and places and major events, because there's still going to be major events that I probably won't cover in the timeline. I'm going to cover just the ones that I deem the biggest, because the next one we're definitely going to be covering is going to be the birth of Slaanesh and the fall of the Eldar. And, well, I mean, the Eldar's rise to supremacy and the subsequent fall thereof. And then naturally, after the Eldar, we're going to move on to humanity. Uh, but then once we get through all of that, we'll probably have a whole separate thing for the Horus Heresy, or that one might be a multi-part, or that one might be all in one sitting. Who knows? But yeah, just do you have anything like that?
Like any questions along of what you just said? No.
All right. Well, with that, we have officially completed the first episode. How do you feel about it? How do you feel? Do you feel confident that if I gave you a test, that I wouldn't have to put your brain in a toaster for failing?
You might have to put my brain in the toaster for failing.
All right. Well, at some point, you are going to get a test, and you will get brain toasted if you fail. So you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with that because Adeptus Mechanicus, they fuck toasters, man.
Huh?
Yeah, man. It's a running meme in 40K. The Adeptus Mechanicus fucks toasters.
Gee, why?
It's just a joke. They're just really
Oh,
into technology. Like sometimes it feels like near sexual the way they talk about it. So it depends. But yeah, you brain toaster and then you know Adeptus Mechanicus neuron penis inside of the toaster. So try not to fail the test. If you fail any of the Imperium tests, you might just get servitorized though. So don't worry too hard about that part. And at least you won't. Well, you might be awake at some point during that. You might wake up there after being in a servitor. Who knows? But then yeah, we're gonna stop. This is dragging on as an outro. God, this is gonna be such a scuffed first episode, but I'm really looking forward to trying to edit this and upload it. Um, I'm not sure I want to do this every week. Probably aim for every other week, just because this is gonna be a monster of a task for me to pull off in editing. So I'm definitely just gonna do like the audio recording of this, clip things out, and then put pictures up for the video instead. Probably. It's definitely something similar to what Adeptus Ridiculous does, just instead of it being like kind of entertainment, this is going to be like in-depth stuff because I know that there are plenty of people who do the in-depth stuff like Luton, but I just also want to do this for fun. And I like force feeding hundreds of lore books to my friends. So here you are. Now you never have to read the book unless you don't remember this. Then we're gonna go through a refresher episode, and then I'll make you read the book if you don't do well on the test after that. So here we are.